All right, so I think we're still waiting for at least one more person to join us in order to get started and move forward.
Yeah, let's give people just maybe 1 or 2 more minutes to show up. I think we can just get started and hopefully we'll have one other person show up at some point. So Laura, do you want to kick off the meeting?
Sure thing. Well, welcome to tonight's Community Development Citizen Advisory Committee meeting. Today, I think the agenda is pretty straightforward. First, we will address approval of last month's meeting minutes. So did folks have a chance to take a look at those from last month? All right. And I think do we have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
So moved. Seconded.
All right. Thanks all. Last month's meetings are approved. And we will move on. I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin, and she's going to do some introductions of some folks that we have on the line that we're going to hear from tonight.
Great, thanks, Laura. Yeah, so I'll just provide a little bit of background too about sort of why we invite our friends from a variety of different organizations that do great work across the county. So we, as you know, we have a competitive grant application process where we invite nonprofits to respond and submit grant applications for CDBG and CSBG funding. But we also fund some organizations that do not compete for the funding. And most of those are internal county programs that have been funded through CDBG for a good while. And so we like to invite them to come in the beginning of the year after we've done the grant applications to give an overview of how their programs have performed over the last year and to give us a little bit of a preview about what might be changing in the next fiscal year. So the first presenter that we have tonight is Courtney Lord from the Arlington Employment Center. And she's going to talk a little bit about their Childhood Development Associate program. So I'm going to turn it over to Courtney to introduce herself and the program.
Awesome. Good evening, everybody. As Caitlin said, my name is Courtney, and I am the Workforce Development and Curriculum Manager at the Arlington Employment Center. I have been with the AEC for about 3 years now, since 2019, and my role has really been creating this program and keeping it sustainable over the years. Caitlin, are you able to share your screen by any chance? Thank you. I just realized I'm not at my normal spot, and if I share my screen, I won't be able to see everybody and all that. Yeah, so as Caitlin mentioned, I'll be talking about how we use these funds. We mostly use these funds for one of our programs, our Child Development Associate program, but I'll also mention another funding way that the funds are used as well. You can go to the next slide, Caitlin. Thank you. So I'll start by giving you an overview of the program. So kind of just background information about how they work and the requirements for the clients. And then from there, I can give you data up until Q2 of this year and some things that we've learned in this fiscal year and what we plan on doing for next fiscal year. You can go to the next one. So the main way we use these funds is our Child Development Associate program, sometimes shortened as CDA. So this is a professional development credential for people who would like to work in early childhood education. The organization that actually bestows the credential is called the Council for Professional Recognition. What's really great about having this credential is that it's nationally recognized. So that means it's portable. Wherever they go, the credential goes with them. And that's also super helpful in our area. A lot of people, live in Northern Virginia, but they might work in DC or Maryland or, vice versa. One of the good things about earning this credential in Arlington County is those who have the CDA credential can actually be considered a lead teacher at licensed daycare centers. And so that's, beyond assistant director or director, that's pretty much as high as you can go inside a childcare facility. Another benefit is there's pathways built in with earning this credential. And so our clients who get the credential at the end can actually earn credit towards their associate's degree at Northern Virginia Community College as well. So this is really considered like a first step, but even though it's a first step, it's quite a process. It does take time. There's lots of little things to do along the way. You got to do the things in the right order. And so the purpose of our program is really to help them, through that process. So right now, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, we're kind of in a weird spot because we switched vendors for our 120 hours of education. So we have some people who are using our old vendor, and then all of our new folks this year are using our new vendor. So typically, the class or the whole program has been taking people 15 months to complete. We do expect that to go down, especially with our new vendor. But basically, we think about this program in 2 phases. So in the first phase, the clients are taking classes with us. And during that time, we're really focusing on an employment piece where we're helping them with their resume, their cover letters, helping them through the interview process and securing employment. Once that piece, and some of this is happening concurrently, but once that's in place, they're working towards their 120 hours of education. They're working towards gaining the right amount of work experience. And then the hardest part is the professional portfolio. So it's reflection pieces about their place of work and different artifacts from work as well. So that typically takes about 9 months for people to finish. Then after that, we're helping them through that credentialing process with the Council for Professional Recognition. And so the portfolio itself has over 20 different pieces with like 8 different essays. It's quite extensive. So we're assisting with making sure that's all good to go, helping them submit their application to the Council for Professional Recognition. And then the credentialing process actually has 2 parts. One part is the verification visit, where someone comes and visits them at their place of work to observe them working with the children. And then a second part is where they actually go to a facility, a testing location to take their exam. Once all that's done, then they get their credential. So that's the kind of overview of how it works. And then, so to date, we launched this program originally in January 2020. So really great timing in terms of the pandemic hit 3 months later. Childcare and childcare businesses were one of the hardest hit industries, but we're starting to really recover from that. So to date, we've served 58 clients, and 15 of those clients have received credentials so far from the Council for Professional Recognition. And as you just heard, this is a long program. So the other, I don't know, I can't do quick math, other 45 people are still in a different spot. So they're still in the program, they're just not done yet. We're actually expecting about another 13 people to earn their credentials before the end of this fiscal year. So we're excited about that. We have seen 100% employment and promotion rates for people who earn their credentials. And currently right now, I pulled this data from December. But for our clients who have the credential, their average wage is $18.62 an hour. Our highest earner is around $28 an hour. And then, as I said, employment is a huge piece. And so all of our clients are currently employed at licensed daycare centers. And it is a requirement that they remain employed throughout the program. So for those who are currently employed and work in the program, their average is $16.79 per hour. And then most of our clients are working at daycare centers located in Arlington. Those who aren't are either in DC or Fairfax, so not too far away. Then you can go on to the next one, Caitlin. In terms of big things we learned this year, employment has been a big one. So they can't move forward in our program or get the credential unless they're employed. So the goal is really to get them employed early in the program and quickly. And so we do this in 2 different ways. One, we're helping the client, but then 2, we're also establishing relationships with the local employers. So on the client side, we're obviously the employment center. So we're able to help with that career counseling in terms of, resume, job interview preparation, and things like that. But on the employer side, we've really done a lot of work this past year with establishing relationships with them to understand their hiring needs, their upcoming hiring needs, and establishing processes for doing direct referrals from people in our program to places of licensed childcare centers in our area. So it's really not unusual for me to open up my email and have directors of childcare centers asking or telling me their hiring needs and me referring people over. So that's been pretty successful this year. And then the partnerships that we've been developing, this has helped us both recruit students and then also support our clients after they get the credential. And so on the recruiting side, we've really strengthened, again, those relationships with employers so that they're able to also refer their floater teachers, their assistant teachers to our program as well. And then that also helps us with the students that are in our program, because once they do get credentialed, they can be considered lead teachers, and we're really the first to know about those open positions. Another partnership we've cultivated this year is with Northern Virginia Community College. I mentioned earlier that by getting this credential, you can earn credit towards your associate's degree. So we have their head of early childhood education department come talk to our students 2 times a year about how they take this credential, go on to NOVA, do the application process, all the scholarships that are available for people in early childhood education, and so on. And then in terms of outreach, this is something that we started last year and we continue to build on this year. In the past, it was kind of always a scramble to get clients registered and get them started in the program. So what we did instead is we kind of created a seamless ongoing registration process where people can just go to our website. There's an informational video that they can watch at any time. If they're interested, they fill out a really basic form. It notifies us that they're interested, and we kind of have a rolling wait list. So we're always recruiting students, where we always have people to fill the courses. And that was really effective this year in when we registered back in November. It was the highest number of students we ever registered at one time. So we went from registering 10 to 12 students every time we opened it up to registering 20. So quite a jump. And then something that I mentioned a little bit earlier is our schedule and material change. So we did switch vendors for the 120 hours of education. And the reason for doing so is we really wanted this to be more self-paced for our learners. We were finding that once they gained employment, kind of keeping up and attending the synchronous classes started to be a challenge, especially if someone was going from unemployed to taking classes and then all of a sudden being employed full-time and trying to balance classes plus regular life stuff. And so that vendor is really allowing us to empower the students to take classes on a self-paced basis. And we're testing it out with our 20 that just registered. And so I'm sure I'll report back next year with how that's been going. So that's one program that this fund supports. And then on the other side, we do offer job seeker workshops. These are virtual offerings. We do them 3 times a week. Currently, we have over 15 different topics related to job search. So everything from traditional resumes, cover letters, to newer topics like using and leveraging LinkedIn and networking to secure employment. And then in terms of who we've served this year and that, you can go to the next slide, Caitlin. So far this fiscal year, we've had 186 people who attended these webinars. This is actually a lot because last fiscal year we had 200 people in total for a whole year. So we're really on track to double our attendance this year. And the satisfaction rate remains high. Honestly, the trickiest part with this is verifying kind of grant eligibility. So we do make it optional for people to share their demographic information. And so far we've seen 8 people fall under the grant eligibility of those 186. I'm sure there's more out there. They're just not completing that demographic information. But of those 8, 13% did gain better employment within 3 months of joining a webinar series. And we actually had one attendee who became a consultant at an advertising agency. So pretty cool stuff. But like I said, I think the number of people that we're seeing meeting that grant eligibility requirements is obviously lower than we'd like. But like I said, I feel like more people do. It's just a matter of not self-disclosing in our registration process. And then in terms of lesson learned from this past fiscal year, we've been doing a lot better at checking in on people's employment status post-workshop. In the past, it was a little tricky because there was just a lot of people, a lot of moving pieces. But we started implementing processes where we follow through email and phone calls for 3 months after they attend their first session. I also have an additional staff member now who helps me on the admin side of that, so that's super helpful. And then just in general, we see that the more things that people attend, so the more webinars or workshops that people attend, the more likely they are to have positive employment outcomes. And so, you know, my main goal when they get to a webinar at the end is to really just encourage them to take the next step, whether that's to attend another webinar or go to our one-on-one sessions, watch one of our on-demand videos, or transition into intensive case management. So we're just always encouraging them to do more. And then last but not least, our plans for fiscal year 24. We do hope to continue serving people in that CDA program. Right now, I put it as 30 people enrolling, but like I said, with that new vendor, we're able, I think we'll see more than that, but right now the goal is 30. We are also hoping to reduce the amount of time that it takes people to finish the program, just again, because it's more self-paced. So we're hoping to see 20 complete, you know, the whole process. And then the remaining 10 wouldn't complete until the following fiscal year. But trying to keep that employment rate high, the credential rate high, all the rates high. And then for our workshops, we want to see 100 people. Hopefully we get to see more that are grant eligible. And then we're looking at always making sure that when we're placing or assisting with that employment piece, that it's at the living wage number. And then that is my contact information. Caitlin, you can feel free to send this PDF out to people. And if anyone has any questions, they can also email or call.
Great. Thank you so much, Courtney. Does anyone have any questions for Courtney?
Yeah, just a quick question. Where are you located? It's dark where I am.
Well, this is a virtual background, so it's still dark here too. But the employment center is inside the 2100 building in the Sequoia Plaza. Right. I wish it was this bright right now.
Thanks, Link. Tim, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess I may have missed it, so forgive me, but it's only for childcare. Are you guys planning to offer other disciplines or
Yeah, so one of the ones that's been on our back burner for a while, it's still in the education realm, but a lot of people that we turn away from the program are actually interested in instructional aid positions or substitute teaching positions. And so we have been looking at creating something. The requirement to get one of those positions is passing among other things, but passing the Parapro assessment. So that's been something we've been looking at because out of everybody I turn away, that's like the number one demand is instructional aids or substitute teaching. Specifically at Arlington Public Schools. So that's one we've been looking into. But beyond that, no.
And then just one other question. You get funding from CIDSAC for sure. What are your other funding sources?
So internally, we do matching Greg would be the better person to ask about that. He asks for receipts and I submit them. But we do some internal matching.
So I'm assuming that means like general fund
Yeah.
money through the budget. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Not the right term. Like I said, Greg
Yeah.
knows the vocabulary.
No, it's okay.
He's the budget guy. I'm the program lady. So.
Laura, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'll ask a question as well. So you mentioned that the majority of folks are then getting placed in employment within Arlington. And you mentioned child care centers. Does that include like in-home, the local centers, as well as like national chains that have an Arlington location? That includes like the whole gamut of childcare?
Yeah, so the focus of the program is childcare centers. So that would be both the national chains like Bright Horizons, KinderCare, things like that. But then there's also like local chains. So like the Children's International School or Little Ambassadors. So they have multiple locations in Arlington, but they're specific to Arlington. The other place we were looking to expand this program is family childcare centers. The only tricky part with that is, again, because the credential requires you to have the work experience, is that you already have to be a fully kind of licensed operating family childcare center, which is a whole other set of a whole other set of things to do. And so that's something else we've been looking at to expand as well, because beyond those who want to be instructional aides in Arlington Public School, that's the second request is, well, I want to open up my own childcare facility. And that's not my department. That's a different department, and it is possible, but it gets a little tricky in terms of timeline. So usually for those folks, we refer them over to Child and Family Services for the how do you open your own center, and then also Northern Virginia Community College, who has a 6-month certificate program and a 1-year program as well that can be paid for by scholarship. Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Courtney. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
And I will let you know if anything else comes up.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm just going to move on to our next presenter, Laura, if that's okay. So our next presenter is Jorge Laura, and he is the Housing Outreach Program Coordinator for the Arlington County Housing Division. He's been to many CIDSAC meetings in the past to talk about the outreach program and all the great work he does at various committed affordable housing properties across the county. So I'm going to turn it over to him to share a little bit about what he's been up to and what he's planning on being up to in the next fiscal year. So do you want me to share your PowerPoint, or did you want to share your screen? Okay.
Let me try first. And
okay.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. It's glad to be here again. It seems like yesterday, and happy February, the month of the love, or whatever you're gonna call it. Let me share my screen, please. Allow me to do that. It's gonna take I'm gonna blur my camera so I can I share? Okay, cool. All right, let me go here, and probably you're gonna see yourself in there. And then I'll go here. And is everybody looking at my PowerPoint?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm not seeing it.
Okay. That means let me end this slideshow, and then I stop sharing. Let me see. Let me share again. Let me see. Use a share. And what about now? Not looking at. Okay, Kaylee.
Not yet.
So
I'll share mine. And
I'll
also
do it.
you did turn your camera off. I don't know if you meant to do that, but it's
Yeah, I'll
up to
put my
you.
camera back on. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay, go ahead. Please do it. And yes, most of the when we do the workshops and all here, and we do it in Zoom, and it works fantastic. I don't know why I have to do these things in Teams. It's a little bit tricky. But anyway, my name is Jorge Lora. I'm the Housing Outreach Program Coordinator for the HUD designated areas in Arlington County. And as I said before, we have expanded that to wherever we have committed affordable units, and we have marks apartments. These programs support the Affordable Housing Master Plan as well as the Consolidated Plan to promote vibrant and sustainable neighborhoods. Next slide, please, Kaylee. Great. So again, thank you for the opportunity to share with you a quick overview of my program for FY22, which was finished according with these in June 30th, 2022, last year. What is going on right now in FY23 is the current year, and I'll let you know what we're planning to do for FY24 CD49. In FY22, the Housing Outreach Program successfully provided housing education information and referral services to households within those designated areas in Arlington County. And some of those highlights are we facilitated about 38 educational seminars attended by 373 residents. We coordinated with the Center for Assistance to Family. That's a new nonprofit that I was able to invite to work with me, with my program, and do these events. The Live in Arlington Information Fair, as you're looking here, I believe when I came last year and in front of you, I mentioned that in October of 2021, we did that event with 10 workshops. And we also, after that, in April of 2022, were able to do with them the Live in Arlington Information Fair at that we also have a fair housing, a special ceremony celebrating Fair Housing Month, in which we got some dignitaries from Richmond and from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It was very nice attending. You can see the picture here. And we also have done tenant education workshops, and we had especially one virtual workshop that we did it with the Department of Human Services. We have over 40 participants on that, and the name of that event and that webinar was Rental Affordable Housing Haunting 101. And probably we're going to repeat that next time. We also did planned and managed to do 2 neighborhood cleanups on FY22 for Green Valley neighborhood and Arlington Mill. We were able to remove actually environmental services. I coordinated and was there and participated, but we removed 24 tons of trash and metal between those 2 events. That was the most in recent years. I'm telling you, those neighborhoods are showing new way especially in their backyards are clean. The neighborhood looks better thanks to this program. And we take the opportunity when we do these cleanups to talk to the homeowners about different areas of maintaining their housing. And that's a good thing. Over 500 residents participated. In FY22, we also referred around 359 clients to appropriate county agencies and nonprofit programs. That included about 24 outreach hours to community centers. I find out that when AFAC give the food away, it's a good time to come and mingle with the people, talk about that with the tenants, with the housing service provider. They find out what is going on. Usually the community centers that I go is the Gates of Boston, most known as Charles Rinker Center. The other one is Arlington Mill Community Center. From time to time, I used to go to Whitfield Community Center and some other community centers like Lady Queen of Peace. We also provide technical assistance to about 101 people. These include visiting 24 apartments. Every month, I take the time to stop by 2 apartment complexes and talk to managers about integrated pest management control, about fair housing, mall issues, or whatever they want to talk. It's nice having fun because when I go to these apartments, some people, managers, they know me, look like before they were assistants or whatever. They say, Jorge, how are you? And I don't remember, but anyway, I say, hey, how are you? And so they give me the time to talk to them about all of this situation. Also, you see here in front of you other engagement, what I call other engagements. At the end of the month, every month, I used to drive by the designated areas like Green Valley and Columbia Heights West, now it's called Arlington Mill, looking for any situations like all these signs that goes into the posts, like we read the tarot cards or whatever. Sometimes the environmental services, they go and cut it in half because they're pretty high, and sometimes code enforcement remove those. When they don't do it, then I take the time to remove it. So I want to make sure that the neighborhood is in fine and good conditions. Next slide, please, Kaylee. So that brings us to FY23. That's the current year where we're going right now. We are a little bit half over what is the fiscal year. And in October of this last year, we were able to do the Living Arlington Information Fair. As you can see here, we call it a housing fair, and we have 10 workshops. So today, and I'm calling 1-1 at the beginning of the year, that's when I finished doing this PowerPoint and I forget about it, but here we are. We did about 20 education seminars at that point, 14 outreach hours to community centers. We talked to about 9 managers of different apartments. And like I said before, we coordinated with the Center for Assistance to Families, the Living Arlington Information Fair. That was attended by, the workshops attended by 113 residents, and over 200 people came to that event. And in the next 6 months, we're going to be doing 10 to 15. I forgot to move that virtual. It's not going to be virtual. It's going to be in-person education seminars, 12 outreach hours to community centers. I'm going to be looking to going again to Green Valley. I used to go to the community center run by Macedonia nonprofit, but now is Bridges of Independence, and I'll try to stop by and do seminars again like I used to do before. Other events that we participate and we are already going to be doing is Green Valley Day. We're going to be doing outreach. That's going to be on February 25th at the Drew Community Center. We're going to be at the Virginia Hospital Employment Resource Day. We're going to be on the 14th and on the 21st of this month, bringing information about rentals, about homeownership, about mall issues, pest control, and all of that. Then we're going to be at Langston Boulevard Air Day. This is going to be the first time that we're going to be doing that. It's going to be between Langston Boulevard and Old Dominion Drive. They have invited us. That's going to be April 1st. And we also, my program is going to be participating with the homeownership program in the Nova Housing Expo. That's going to be also in April. Then we're going to be planning to visit about 10 apartment complexes. Usually I choose them when I heard that some of them are having problems. Those are the apartments that I choose to go. And we are coordinating right now the next Living Arlington Information Fair. It's going to be in April. And I believe we're going to have also celebrating Fair Housing Month. And also in May and June, we're going to be doing the neighborhood cleanups for Green Valley and Arlington Mill. Next slide, please, Kaylin. So yes, on this also fiscal year FY23, and there are other things that we do. Like I said, I drive by the designated areas, and this is an example. You can see here, this is a small shopping center in Columbia Pike. I saw that this graffiti was painted on top of the commercial here, and usual way to solve that problem is notify the police, and then or sometimes another department. But what I did is I go inside, talk to the management, and usually they notify the property management of the community center by a week without notifying nobody. It was already clean. So sometimes it takes time. Also, the same thing with apartment complexes. When I drive by, if I see trash like you see here, I go and talk to the manager, like, quick, what's going on? You know, especially, I understand when it's Monday, but if this happened on Tuesday or Wednesday, then there is a problem. The other thing is that my program received an Excellence of Partnership Award by the nonprofit working with us right now, the Center for Assistance with Families. It was nice and received not only by me, but the people that work in these outreach efforts that we do to help the community. I also do help implement the fair housing outreach by doing at least 2 workshops related to fair housing. I promote that by also taking the flyers, and when I go and talk to apartment complexes or community centers or whoever, I tell them about fair housing and update brochures related to it's like this is a homeowner brochure about maintenance, but we have about bed bugs or roaches or committed affordable units, where they are. So now is the time that I am almost finished updating those for these not only FY23, but the whole 2023. Next slide, please, Kaylin. So that brings us to FY24. That's going to be coming on July 1st, 2023. We're going to continue to do that Live 1 and Live 2. Now we have what we have to sign is Live 1 in October is going to be for first-time home buyers and tenants. So we try to do eviction prevention and more into for tenants. And Live 2 is more for homeowners and home buyers. And at this Live 2, we do, like we used to do the home show and expo. I don't know if some used to come to that. It was a big event. I cannot find a nonprofit that worked with me to do that. It was a huge event. The nonprofit that I'm working with, they're trying to do it this live. And trust me, it's not easy to convince them to do, but they are taking the effort. And also, we're going to be doing tenant landlord workshops, homeowner workshops. We're going to stop by the community centers. Let me give you an example of why it's important to come to the community centers and talk to the people there. Last Monday, I was at Arlington Mill, and after talking to people, tenants there, and the manager and different people, I find out that one of the things that people are looking for right now is employment. I thought that Arlington County has a 2.7 employment rate, but no, people say, no, we need jobs. We need jobs. I said, there is jobs. No, we need. So that I'm going to investigate more on that. The other ones, some seniors were telling me, we need to know more about senior rental housing. Where can we go? Where can we go when I move? So that moved me into creating workshops that we're going to be bringing to these residents. We're going to do the neighborhood cleanups too. That is going to be on FY24. Housing forums. We used to do that partnering with the Department of Human Services. Probably they're going to come back. And neighborhood events. Now they're popping up everywhere. So they are going to be welcome. And the next slide, please, Kaylin. So everybody is invited to the Live in Arlington Information Fair. It's going to be April 29 at Walter Reed Community Center. This time it's going to be information about home buying, home improvement. We're going to use that community center that is close to Green Valley. So a lot of houses, duplexes over there, next to Douglas Park, next to Columbia Heights neighborhood and Penrose. We're going to invite all of these residents to come to this community center. We have 10 wonderful workshops. So that's it. I'm ready for any questions.
Thanks so much, Jorge.
Thank you, Kaylee.
Does anyone have any questions for Jorge? Well, not hearing anything. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Jorge. This I know you do great work and really keep you know the community keep your eyes on the community. So I really do appreciate that everything
Thank you
you're
so
doing.
much.
So
Thank
and
you.
if there are any other questions from members, I'll make sure to send those to you and we can get the follow-up answers to. Oh, it looks like Tim does have a question.
Yeah, actually, Jorge, you mentioned that you're having problems with finding a nonprofit. Did I hear that right? You're having some trouble with a nonprofit partner for your, what kind of a nonprofit partner are you looking for?
Well, I used to do the home show and expo with CIPRO, Columbia Pike Revitalization Organization, for many years. I did it with most of these managers and then place, and then Takis took over. You know Mr. Takis, and he started doing the work, this home show and expo with me, and then he did it with Resilient Virginia. He started working with Resilient Virginia and doing this event with me, but then he became a county board member, and he couldn't do it anymore. And then I was looking for another nonprofit, and nonprofits, they want to get, and I agree with them. I mean, when they see how much money is involved into doing this event, they say, well, we need to get paid. I said, well, you're going to get paid when you get the exhibit. Well, we don't know. So it really doesn't cost any, and the home show and expo that we've been doing for many years, it costs nothing to the county. And actually the nonprofit was giving me gift cards so I can give those to the, when I do tenant education workshops. So when they see that, I talk to nonprofit, they want to at that front get paid for $15,000 just to do it. So it's not easy. I'm telling you, it's that home show. And I see Mr. Cummings had come one time when we did it at Kenmore School, and you saw, I mean, nice event there. So they get scared because it's a lot of little things to do. Yeah.
Right. So just so that I'm clear, the county is not providing you any support to do this, therefore, and you don't have a nonprofit provider that can afford to do this, so it's not being done.
Correct. Well, something
Okay.
like this, that I get paid my job, my salary, and I try to do that like an in kind, and it's like the same thing working with this nonprofit doing life. In the beginning, they didn't want to do it, but once I tell them what's gonna come, they say, well, let's try it. And once they start doing it, they saw that there is things like they can find new funding, they can make network with new people. They are coming to Arlington County now. They are moving into Arlington County. They just sign up to get a new office, so they see the value once they come. And I believe working with nonprofits is a good way to augment our job. You know, I believe that's very positive. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Did we have any other questions for Jorge? All right. Well, thank you again, Jorge.
All right.
Have a good rest of your night.
So yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
And I am just going to quickly turn it over to our next guest as well, who is here to talk about the Promotora program through Bugada. We have the executive director of Bugada, Saul Reyes, and he's going to talk a little bit about what the program is, what it does, who they serve, and how the program complements other county services. So go ahead and take it away, Saul, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Caitlin. real quick before I get started, would you do me a favor and pull up the PowerPoint for me? I don't know if you have it with you. Last minute, I had it up on the screen and it crashed. So, and I'm waiting for the app to to see if I can upload it. But I think BS, if you could just share it for me, I would really appreciate that. There it is. Thank you. So, good evening, commissioners. My name is Saul Reyes. I'm with Bogata Tennis Association, and I am here to present Bogata's Promotora program. I'm going to start with a brief background on the program and then give you an overview of accomplishments and our plans for the future. So what is the Promotora program? The Promotora program is a neighborhood-based system of care that seeks to provide low-income immigrant households with a continuum of education and advocacy that are accessible and culturally competent. With the goal to engage community members to develop and strengthen support networks for isolated Arlington residents to improve access to services and civic engagement opportunities. The Promotora program connects the neighbors' informal networks with the formal mainstream networks. If you could go to the next screen, please. Next slide. Thank you. And so here I'm going to talk to you about the need. So what is the need for the Promotora program? Many immigrant households are not familiar with and are often distrustful of formal delivery systems. And so while there may be other immigrants who have lived in Arlington for a longer time and may have approached formal systems, but believe that they were not served because of language barriers, cultural barriers, or legal barriers. And there are also other immigrants in the community that believe that because of those barriers that they have, because of cultural barriers, language barriers, or legal barriers, they just don't approach services in the county. So one of the things that we tell them, and as we run into people that come into the office, or they call us, or through outreach we meet them, we tell them about what resources they could qualify for. And so that's one important thing. You may have people living in crowded conditions because they have no idea that they can apply for their own apartment, and so they don't have to be doubling up or tripling up. Although there are other reasons why some families do that, but there are, for example, recent immigrants that have no idea how to open bank accounts, but most importantly is that they can also get their own apartment. So those are just some examples. And so consequently, these residents may face unemployment, lack of decent and affordable housing, and instability. So if you could go to the next slide, please. And so one of the goals of the program is to encourage civic engagement. And civic participation is key to the ability of residents to learn about policies that affect their lives, housing, and education. It is also important that the immigrant community take part in decisions that affect their future in Arlington. And if Arlington is to be successful in addressing the needs, preserving housing affordability and diversity while addressing growth, the low-income renters, including many immigrants, need to be actively engaged in ensuring that the community, their needs are met as well. One key thing about this program is that we do outreach. And through outreach, we meet people where they are. We meet them where they live, where they play, and where they shop. So we go out in the community to talk to people, visit different apartment communities, do an outreach where we can find the people. Next slide. So Promotores is a network of residents, and what Bogata is, our role is to be an educator, but also to serve as a connector to a network of services, and also as as an outreach mechanism to engage residents. And so Bogata accomplishes this using the neighborhood navigators that we call navigators, and we train them on resources, and so we call them promotoras. And so promotoras are community members that Bogata trains in community organizing, advocacy, resources and services available in the community. And the promotoras are effective communicators, helping bridge the formal systems in the communities where they live. So if you could go to the next slide. For goals and objectives, as you can see here, our goals and objectives are to identify barriers faced by Latinos and other immigrants in accessing county and partner services, as I mentioned before, but also to develop neighborhood navigators to reach isolated residents as a strategy for improving community engagement, and to make people comfortable and get them engaged, and getting neighbors, knowing neighbors, and being active in the community and being engaged. And so also to expand the outreach and social networks to educate and empower residents, and to connect the county and community service providers to services. Next slide. For the impacts. So impacts in the community is, to gain access to services and programs that provide stability and improved quality of life for the residents we work with, and also sharing of learned experience with others in their community and neighbor. And so through our work, as we help people, oftentimes they reach out because they need assistance. It could be rental assistance or healthcare or access to food. So we make referrals to AFEC. Also, we're an agency that's registered to do that. But as we're working with the resident, we help them, but at the same time, we teach them how, the services are, how to access them, what applications may need to be filled out. And so they learn themselves. And the goal is that they go and also help family members and friends and neighbors. And so civic engagement, participation in workshops, events, forums, and testimony at a public hearings is one of the ways that we measure that impact. And as I mentioned before, as we teach people how to help themselves and help their neighbors and friends and family, is so that they can advocate for themselves and others in their community. So we can go to the next slide. So our targets, 3, is to outreach to 300 individuals in our households in our delivery of community liaison services. 2 is to participate and host workshops and events related to issues that are relevant to the community. So as we identify hot issues that are going on in the community or crises that are going on in the community, we bring in speakers to talk to the community and educate them about, what resources may be available, what help is available. And the ultimate goal is to have a community that is informed and educated. And so a third target is to measure the impact on households who have who receive the one-on-one assistance. We could go to the next slide. That's how we measure that success. One way is, to know that someone has gained access to services and programs that impacted their lives. And that's through follow-up. Either people called us back themselves after they've applied for a service, or we call them back. We have check-ins to see if they applied for the service, and find out one key through that is that either the resident will call us back, or when we check in with them, we find out whether they applied for the service, and if they didn't, why not. Another way to measure success is through the increase in levels of learning and confidence and engagement. So people are participating in the community, attending meetings, also a sharing of learned experiences with others in the community and neighborhood. That goes back to, educating, helping them help themselves and their neighbors and families. And in civic engagement, again, that goes along with the participation in workshops, presentations at forums, or testimony at public hearings or commissions, including the county board. If you go to the next slide. So here are some accomplishments. Of the people we work with one-on-one, the way we measure impact is by tracking the issues resolved, as I mentioned before. In 2022, 314 individuals or households gained access to services that impacted their life. We planned and supervised 4 work. Actually, it was 5, including year to date, up to date. So 5 workshops for community residents, and those included workshops on housing programs, housing types, and housing options. We had county housing staff present and talk about that. We also did a workshop on debt and collections, and that is something that is coming up, showing up a lot more, because during the pandemic, some people, they were struggling with money. Some of them took out credit cards and starting, either buying food or paying other expenses, and now they're accumulated a debt, or they may be in collections. And so we had Legal Aid Justice Center come and talk to the community and talk about how to remove, bad things from the record, so that, as Jorge mentioned, there's if people interested in home ownership, but if they have something on their credit or bad credit or debt on there and it's in collections, that affects them. And so Legal Aid Justice Center came and talked about that and talked about the service that they offer as well for removing those negative things from credit. We also did a workshop on immigration and asylum. There's a great interest from that topic in the community, so we brought in presenters to talk about that. Workshops on eviction moratoriums were still relevant last year, even though those moratoriums have been lifted, but that was something that was of importance and were well attended because everybody wanted to know, keep informed about, eviction. Mental health has been coming up a lot more, both for youth and adults. And so we conducted a workshop for that, for mental health. And then other accomplishments includes, securing access to heating subsidies for people. Food assistance, as I said, with the primary agency we work with is AFAC, and connected people to emergency assistance, rental assistance to prevent evictions, access to healthcare as well. And through our work, as it's our nature to work dealing with housing issues as well, we have secured changes to relocation plans and changes to or changes in program implementation to keep tenants from being displaced. Many tenants were able to remain in their units and learn how to access services as a result of the Promotora Outreach Program, and secured access to various programs by assistant residents fill out forms, apply for programs, or negotiate with landlords and other government agencies. Filling out forms, I put that there because it's very important. It is a need in the immigrant community. Sometimes people are discouraged from applying to services because they don't know how to fill out a form. It may be a simple form sometimes, but if they don't know how to fill it out, then that's a barrier. So we try to help with that and also communicate those issues to our partners, including DHS. When people are applying for services, rental assistance, or any service from DHS, we have communicated that to them. As well to other nonprofit safety net organizations. We let them know what barriers were identified and reasons why people may not be accessing services. So if we could go to the next slide. Here are the areas, some of the common areas of assistance are listed here, categories and subcategories for like public assistance and general information. This past year included information from county agencies and what other services. For example, there you see SNAP, the Housing Choice Voucher, housing grants. Under health, and what I said that was new this year is mental health, but there's also people that need information on insurance and how to get medical insurance and finding healthcare providers and filling out financial assistance applications. Immigration is always a topic of interest. And so we provide the community with information and resources for that. Employment is another one where I know we had a presentation from the Employment Center. Great help, great assistance is much need in the community. So we also help our people with applications and resources for that, and some residents also contact us and tell us, hey, I work in a hotel, we need some people, or in a restaurant, or the place where I'm working, whatever it is, construction or whatnot. They try to keep us notify whenever there are, any openings. So if there's anyone in the community that is looking for a job that is in need, so that, we provide that information. So we keep a bulletin with that information when there are open positions in places where our people are working. Policing crime is always an important topic. Improving relationships with the police department. So this year we're looking to bring back a percentage from the police department to come and talk to the community about things such as how to interact with police when you get stopped, or how to reach out to the police when you're in trouble or you see someone in trouble. So those type of things. And it's always very important to know how to interact with the police. And then also scams. Has always been relevant, because you have people calling saying that they are calling from the IRS or from the Social Security Administration. I left census here because from a previous presentation, because that was relevant during the 2020, during the census. People were getting some random calls from people saying we're the census, and also utilities companies, telling them, hey, you're behind on your utilities, going to be cut off. You need to send, a payment on this, or go buy some gift cards and call us with the gift card numbers. Otherwise, your utilities are going to be cut off. So that's very important to keep the community informed about. Don't fall victim to those things. AFAC, it's self-explanatory. We do provide information and registrations and do some renewals as well. And then as far as education, other education in the community is interested in citizenship, other adult program classes like the English classes, and information on APS, Arlington Public Schools, and income taxes, how to do taxes. We always have new immigrants in the community that come in, and they need to know how to do their taxes or what tax credits they can take as well, for example, child tax credits and those sort of things. So if we could go to the next slide. So future plans is for us to continue doing the work that we do. We continue to expand our outreach and the social network to educate our people, empower underengaged residents. Excuse me. Also, to continue identifying barriers that our communities face, and the Latinos and other immigrants face, to access county services, as I mentioned before, and also to partner, also accessing partner services, and also to collaborate, as I mentioned, with the partners and the county to develop and implement strategies for reducing those barriers. Also, with established partnerships with Arlington and nonprofits to provide educational workshops and emergency assistance to residents, and to connect residents with programs to help mitigate the impact of now, the inflation and that impact on vulnerable households and individuals in the county, and help them bring some stability and help prevent evictions, displacements, and homelessness. So it's just, bringing some stability in everything that is going on right now. So that concludes my presentations. And so I thank you very much for the invitation and for your time, for listening to me this evening. So
Thanks so much, Saul.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions for Saul? A lot of great information about how the Promotora program is helping residents in the community.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, I'm not hearing any. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. If anything does come up, I will be sure to share that information with you. Yeah, we look forward to, continuing to work with you on this great program.
Thank you, and thanks for your help with the PowerPoint. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah, no problem.
It's been great. Y'all have a good night. Take care.
Thanks so much, Saul.
Good night.
So I guess I'll just wrap up by saying that, the 3 programs that were just highlighted are, integral to meeting the goals of the consolidated plan, and really do some unique work in the community to help with both employment and just resident and tenant needs. So I think it's really helpful to kind of highlight those each year just to make sure that everyone kind of understands how while they might not necessarily be competitively procured, they're still sort of meeting a need that is identified through the planning documents that we have. So Laura, I don't want to take the agenda moving role from you, but I'm happy to introduce the next presenter as well, if you would like.
That would be great, Caitlin. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And so I did also invite one other county staff member to attend the meeting tonight. So I wanted to introduce you to Tara Palacios with the Arlington Economic Development's Biz Launch Program. And I thought it would be helpful to invite Tara tonight because we do fund a few small business and micro lending, micro assistance programs through the competitive notice of funding availability process. So that's ECDC, LEDC, and WAKIF. And then the Northern Virginia Family Services Escala program. And I know there's just been a lot of conversation through the grant proposal review about what those programs do and how they complement existing county services and how they kind of work together. So I thought it'd be helpful to invite Tara tonight to kind of give an overview of just the small business landscape in Arlington right now, and especially what's been going on post-COVID. I know that BizLaunch has been doing a lot of work in this area, so I thought who better to talk about what's going on there than Tara. So I'm going to turn it over to her to while I get her PowerPoint pulled up.
Thank you so much, Caitlin, and good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for hearing a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I know it's late in the evening, and I will make sure I stick to time and go through all of this. And Caitlin, I know I did have a video, but we don't necessarily have to play it because I'm looking at time, and I want to make sure if folks have questions or if I can answer anything that we get to that. So about BizLaunch, it is a Arlington County program through and through. My team, we all work very closely with small businesses and making sure they have access to resources, access to tools, have information. We try to bridge the digital divide because what we found is if we can get into people as they have an idea phase or as they're looking to pivot their business, and we work through with different providers and different programs that we have set up in the county, that it will go really, really well for everybody. And just so you guys are aware, we usually hit about 5,000 people come to our programs throughout the year, variety of different types of programs, which I'll get into. But one thing I want you all to know is that we work very closely with the county supported programs like WAKIF, LEDC, EDG. And I'm going to go into at the end, I'm going to go through these slides just so you're aware of the programs that we're doing on the county side. But I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly to talk about some of the things that we've been doing currently, because as the pandemic has hit the small businesses and we were doing grants and we were doing other initiatives, things are slowly starting to get back to normal, but the need for capital and the need for pivoting, especially for a lot of our low and moderate income business owners, is paramount. I can't begin to express otherwise from that. So we can move quickly, Caitlin, through these slides. So what do we do in BizLaunch? We do a lot of education. We do it in both English and Spanish. We do counseling. We promote our businesses. For a time, we were doing a lot on TikTok. Like we get out there to where our businesses are and we really promote them. We have directories and networking, and we try to be flexible. So as things change in the entrepreneurial landscape, we change with it and we partner up with different groups that can really help us reach our very diverse small business landscape. And so as we move forward, I just wanted to show you the BizLaunch team itself. We're a very diverse group of people, but the passion that binds us together is being able to help others live their dreams to start and grow their businesses. The team, Alex Hell, Lourdes Morales, they work one-on-one with many of our small businesses that are getting started. Alex is our small business manager. Lourdes oversees Bislaunch en Español. Bakriti is our administrative management, and Yakin works with Lourdes to do Bislaunch en Español outreach. What's the next? This is the video that we did that I would love to share with you guys at some point. But basically, this video was done on Columbia Pike. We visited several businesses that had been assisted with us in the past, and just how we go and we help businesses. So I'll make sure to share the link to that. And we could come back to that later if we have time, Caitlin. But what I like is the great 4-letter word of free. There is a good 4-letter word, and but it's free, but the county is actually paying the money so that we can provide excellent resources to our small businesses. So as they need assistance in different areas, we're underwriting certain costs, or we're partnering with different organizations that help us to be able to uplift our businesses. So there's no cost to them. And so our website is here, and we've divided it up into our different programs, which I'll go into detail. This is our website. We use a lot of imagery. We do the one-on-one counseling, like I discussed, and a variety of other programs. The one that I really want to talk to you all about today is Relaunch. Relaunch is a program that we started using ARPA dollars, where we're working with small businesses to help them pivot. During the pandemic, a lot of our small businesses were targeted fraudulently. They were paying exorbitant fees to be online, to pivot from a brick and mortar to be online. We had people paying for their free Google My Business page. They were paying per transaction about 40%. And we knew we didn't have enough money to be able to do a full-on grant like we had done before in the past. So we had some funding, and we said, why don't we use that funding to help strengthen our legacy businesses that didn't have an online presence? They may have been on Instagram, they may be using social media, but they didn't really have an e-commerce tool. So we did an RFP where we hired a organization that provides technical assistance, also helping our small businesses do marketing and branding. But we're also partnered up with AWS to actually provide the websites so that our businesses can be found and discovered. That program, so far, we've hit about 300 local businesses. It's not, being completely transparent, it's not for the faint of heart. Doing our own website was hard enough. So we've been working with people to get online, but really coming to where they are and making sure that we are bridging this digital divide and providing resources to help them compete in this new normal. And so if you look at the next slide, some examples of some of the assistance that we've been doing is financial management, strategic planning, marketing and branding. How do I create and develop and design a digital presence? We have folks that need some basic legal assistance and help. Lots of people get into partnerships and agreements, and then they need to dissolve them. So being able to provide these types of services during a time of uncertainty, and we're still in uncertainty, even workforce. We do a lot with workforce with this program as well. And so next slide. And we try to keep everything simple. So we say, have a business license. We consider small in Arlington County those that employ 50 or less. You must be located in Arlington, particularly because these are American Rescue Act funds. And we started off by saying we wanted you to be in business for at least 2 years, but now we say as long as you've been operating for 30 days, we can work with that and help people to really build a solid foundation for their business. And so the next slide are just some examples of some of the websites that we created. We worked hand in hand. The business owners worked with the technical assistance provider that helped them with colors and imagery and wording. And then they went on to AWS, and then the AWS partner built the websites for them. And it includes e-commerce as well. And just wanted to let you all know that we do have market research tools that we are underwriting in economic development, but we've partnered up with the library where you can get free data. We found that a lot of our businesses didn't understand their new target markets. Like, I need to outreach this certain group of people. People aren't going to brick and mortar anymore. How do I find this information? So, and this can also be beneficial to you all as well, because you only need an Arlington County Library card to access it. And so I'll go over the list, and Caitlin, I'll go through these fairly quickly, but as long as you have an Arlington County Library card and you use the hyperlinks, you will then have access to the different databases, and I will definitely can share this presentation. The hyperlinks are all live. And so the list of different market research databases that we have currently that the county is underwriting is Demographics Now, IBIS World, Statista, and Open Grant. We are working on getting another database called Vertical IQ, and that will complete our set of databases that are really structured for small businesses. And so what it is you get access to proprietary databases that can do geofiltering, that can do forecasting, that could do analysis in your chosen field. Now, if you were to utilize these databases without the library card, it will cost you thousands of dollars. So we have one of our colleagues, Prakriti, will sit down with you and walk you through how to access this data, how to fine tune it for yourself, and just show the power behind these different databases. So we've got Demographics Now, and Caitlin, you can move on to the next one. We have IBIS World, which is amazing. You can get real-time financial ratios, industry analysis. You can get great information about everything that you want to know about your industry. Because we're hearing, because as the war in the Ukraine and Russia continue on, landscapers are having a tough time because they rely on oil and they rely on certain lawn care products that you could only get through the Ukraine. So because of the war, landscapers have to pivot. They have to figure out, well, how am I going to access this information? I'm going to have to do this differently. And so IBIS World gives you really great information that you can dig into and find. So then our next one is Statista, which is also amazing. This information is fabulous. What I also love about Statista is you can get it in different languages, but it gives you research, analysis. You can use keyword search. It's very simple. And then our next one is the Open Grants is the newest one, which I do want to say, in finding, I didn't have a slide for it, but it's available to nonprofits as well as small businesses. It's absolutely free. You can create a dashboard that I would say rivals the Foundation Center's collection of opportunities, and we are underwriting it. So if you go to the link on Open Grants on our website, you can create a dashboard based on your industry sector, and you also can be assigned a person to help you navigate that as well. And that's all costs that we are underwriting. A campaign that we also ran during Small Business Saturday was a program that we call Open Rewards. We partnered with an organization where we've listed close to 1,000 small businesses on this platform. So when you shop local, you can get 5% rewards back. And so since we've launched it after Black Friday on Small Business Saturday, we've had close to 6,500 total transactions. We've had an economic impact of $44,000, and our total spend for this program was under $2,000, which makes me really, really happy. And for the next slide, Caitlin, we are going to be doing Watch This Space, because we're going to work with the same provider to create a directory where businesses can not only they don't list, they are pre-populated, and there are tabs where if businesses are looking for workers, they can advertise workers. They can advertise their business. All their social media platforms are housed. And they don't have to do anything because business owners are really busy. They're constantly moving. We'd have the directory. They would just need to update information. If they're having a sale, it would be located in this directory. So we're really excited about this opportunity, which will be happening in the next month or so. And so I say all that to say that the numbers from the programs that we do on a daily is supported with our friends in the CDFI world. And where they are helping us as access to capital has become very hard for a lot of our small businesses to acquire. It's pivotal, and the lending isn't going like it normally would. And so a lot of our small businesses, particularly those that are part of the BIPOC community, may not have collateral to be able to access cash to be able to do a particular initiative. This is where the CDFIs come in, and it's really making a difference. I think post-pandemic, it's pivotal. We are seeing people asking us if there's going to be another grant. Is there financial opportunities? If so, where can we go? And we're seeing this particularly in the low to moderate income communities. And so what I see with CDFIs is that they are willing to take risks that our traditional banks don't, where we have some organizations which will help you to build your credit and or get you to the position where they can underwrite you, but it's not just going for the cash, but it's actually building best practices as part of the whole life cycle of accessing capital. And so what I did on the next slide was I took each of the organizations that receive community development block grants, and I listed their names. I listed how we work with them with BizLaunch, because we work with all four. Also want to show you that we've actually, BizLaunch, I founded BizLaunch in 2002. And so two of the organizations I've worked with since for over 20 years, y'all. And the other two just a few years later. So I know these people. I know where the bodies are buried. And I do think that there are, when I think of each of the organizations, I actually have different feels for each. And I just wanted to share you all, I would say the first organization that I came across when I started BizLaunch and started doing the small business work was ECDC EDG. They had been established, they'd been around, they had reached out, and they had not only working with the ECD program, but through EDG, really about educating businesses and, offering accounting and taxing services. They specialize, they really are deep into the Ethiopian community. I know they have great desire to get into the Spanish speaking community, but some of the biggest differences that I found with EDG is that they're really focused in on things that they can collateralize. So whether it's a taxi or whether it's a food truck or, being able to help a particular industry, I feel like that's where their sweet spot is. The next organization that we worked really closely with was the Northern Virginia Hispanic Committee of Virginia. And it was interesting because I've worked with them for years, prior to them being acquired by Escala. And throughout their history, from '02, they really worked with more on a cohort level with different people versus one-on-one. So they do a lot of training, but it's based on a curriculum, like a proven test curriculum. They were one of the first organizations in Northern Virginia that actually did a cohort training where people graduated with an entrepreneurship certification. It was the Hispanic Committee, which is now known as Escala. For LEDC, they were like the shiny coin for me, because what's interesting about LEDC is that they have creative programming to address issues that are difficult for communities of color, especially where English is not your first language, to be able to address and to do outreach. And since I started stalking them in '05, they've always had somebody at Biz Launch as a staff once a week meeting one-on-one with our clients from '05. And I had encouraged them throughout time to apply for CDBG because the amount of work that they had been doing, and they were very creative. And, they also have the affordable housing component, which is amazing. And so the only thing that kind of hurt us a bit was when the pandemic hit, like with everything else. But we continue to we did a workshop with them today where we had close to 100 entrepreneurs come out completely in Spanish, and we talked about the resources that were available to them. So it's very exciting. WAKIF, I will disclose, I served early on as on their board. I see them also very differently, where they focus on, and I'm sorry, I have a typo there, but they also focus in on the BIPOC community, but they also have grants, I think on the federal side, where they're looking at building financial literacy for women entrepreneurs. They also offer training, they also offer loans, but they have grown their organization exponentially with staffing. And they're able to I feel like for them, they have a large group of experienced loan officers and others, but it's almost like a different target. What I would say, and what I want to leave you guys with, and I'm so sorry, it's 8:05, but each of the different organizations also work together to do referrals back and forth. So LEDC has, specific programs that they're working on. When they know that they aren't able to help a client, they'll refer them to WAKIF and EDG. So for the products, they're not all the same. They offer different ones. Their boards have different tolerance to, taking risks. And depending on what the risk is, like LEDC was doing some really creative work in the retail space because retailers got hit hard and they were able to offer lending in that area. Whereas, WAKIF did some of that, but LEDC really was the leader in that area. And so they all, I would say, collaborate with us. We haven't been doing as much work with the Scala because they've had the person that was running the program left, and I know they're looking to fill some of their positions, but they do reach out to us and we do work with them on different outreach initiatives, and all of them participate. We meet once a month to talk about issues facing small businesses. And so they attend those meetings regularly as well. And so I just wanted to give an overview of kind of like the things that we're doing. We're trying to be as responsive as possible to this current environment. I want to be able to answer any questions that you all have about the small business space, about the work that we do with the Community Development Block Grant recipients, and how we can also help you all as well.
Great. So thank you so much, Tara.
Thank
Does anyone-
you.
Does anyone have any questions for Tara? I thought that was really helpful to kind of understand how the various CDFIs kind of collaborate and, provide some, specific niche, experiences to the various small businesses that they work with. So that was really interesting to hear.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting too, because I will say this, post-pandemic, we could kind of predict how things were going, what the year would look like. You would see trends in different industries. Like, y'all, there was one year where everybody wanted to open up a coffee shop. I'm like, come on now. Or doggy daycares. We had the year of doggy daycares. Now it's harder to predict. It's harder to figure out in like the glass we're trying to look to see where the help is needed, and we're kind of in a stage that's not predictable, but we do know the need is huge. I'm actually starting to run out of funding for relaunch because of the demand of people. They're not able to afford, but we are. And actually, I should have said, we did surveys. We surveyed the small business community to see what they wanted, and relaunch was built on, if you couldn't have access to a grant, what would you spend it on? And so that's where we hit. So it's really directly coming from the small business community. And I just worry if some of these resources were to go away looking long term.
What types of changes have you seen in sort of the needs of the small business community pre and post pandemic? Like, how have their needs changed the most?
Biggest thing that we're hearing right now is workforce and being able to retain workers. There's a lot. So you'll start, especially in particularly in the retail restaurant space, we're having a huge problem with them being able to. So you'll see that, whereas in certain locations, you could go at 7 o'clock and pick up dinner or, buy a certain thing. Places are closing early, not because they want to, but because they don't have the workers to stretch throughout the week to meet the timing. The other thing, and I think that's huge, and that's also in the tech space. Some of our gov tech people being able to find workers is going to be key. I think also the capital. Once May happens and all the federal resources, kind of safety net programs that are in place, once those go away, people are robbing Peter to pay Paul to make payroll and to be able to afford their leases. I think watch this space in the spring as some of these programs go away. The need for capital is probably going to be tremendous, especially in our low to moderate income communities.
That's helpful. And it looks like we have a question in the chat also about how will rising interest rates affect the small business community?
A lot. A lot. It's going to cost you more money to be able to borrow. There was one business that we actually used to cater an event that we did recently, and they told me in order for them to stay afloat after the grants went away, they actually went out and got loans, high interest loans, that they believe, based on the pickup in catering and orders, they'll pay it off in a year or so. So they were fortunate that they were able to do that. I think as you're looking at some of our communities that don't have collateral to use to minimize the risk to the loan, that's where I think CDFIs are going to be even more important, because that there's going to be less risk taking from traditional banks and kind of like a trenching in, which we saw after the Great Recession when the real estate market tanked. It was really hard for people to get capital. And the thing is like, we don't want them to use all of their cash savings. So if something untoward, like you have a flood or a fire or something goes on, you don't want to have all of your cash tapped out as well. So I think the higher interest rates are going to make the cost of doing business much more expensive, but also the ability to be able to find funding, like you need to get it now. And I think we have a tendency, most people that are starting up will say to me, "Oh, Tara, I don't need any money." And I'm like, "Oh, yes, you do. You better get it now." Because if you don't get it now, y'all, and the bank smells that you really need it makes it even harder. It makes it even more challenging. So we're trying to educate people a lot, to let them know how to strategize around that space and where there is funding. That's where the open grants, which has a lot of small business grants in it on the federal side, but also from NGOs as well as large businesses like American Express, Visa, some of these large corporations are providing grants to the BIPOC community in particular and to women entrepreneurs. So we're looking to see and constantly are scoping to see if we can find those opportunities.
Got it. Yeah, that's super helpful to provide context there. Are there any other questions for Tara? I'm not seeing any.
No.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
tonight. I really
you.
appreciate it. And I will send out this PowerPoint so that folks can watch the video.
Yes,
afterwards.
and all the hyperlinks and stuff are available too. And if anyone has questions later on, feel free. My contact information is there. I just want to state for the record that we really appreciate all this hard work that you all do in ensuring that we get good providers in the county. So thank you for your service.
Fine presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. All right. Well, Laura, I think we can move on to the chair's report if you have anything.
I do. One quick thing. About 2 weeks ago, I attended a session for commission chairs with the county manager. It was focused on the FY24 budget. And I can't say I walked away with any, earth-shattering insights about the upcoming budget. But just one thing I wanted to say about that is, the conversation centered around some of the kind of key items, key priority areas, areas of interest for both the county manager and the, chairs of other commissions. And, the ones you might expect: housing, county infrastructure, energy and environment, a focus on veterans. And it just really struck me that kind of anytime anyone was really promoting one of these priority areas and areas that they really wanted to see addressed in the FY budget, they were areas that we see come across our desks every time we review these applications. And it just really struck me the overlap between all of these really key areas for the county and the work we do and the programs that we recommend for funding. So just wanted to highlight that. It was a kind of a neat way to kind of wrap things up, especially after we had just made it through the whole process of doing our application reviews. That's all I've got.
Cool. Thanks, Laura. Good to hear. I actually do have a couple things for the staff report too that I can provide quickly. And actually, I'm hoping to get some participation from the rest of the group for this first one. We are going to be doing our bus tour again this year. So the meeting in April for those who are new to the committee. Every year we do a community development bus tour where we go around to the different, a variety of organizations and programs that are funded through the Community Development Fund. And the past few years, we've done sort of hybrid tours where we've sort of invited some folks virtually. And last year we were in one central location, but this year we were going to try to do an actual bus tour like the olden days again. So I wanted to bring it up tonight just so that everyone first has it on their radar and saves the date for April 5th. It'll be the same day as the regular April SITSAC meeting, but instead it'll be the bus tour. And then the other reason is because I'm looking for recommendations of places to visit so that we can start planning out the route and making sure that we get on our partner's schedule as early as possible. So if there's any program that you've been sort of dying to check out and sort of see their facility or meet with their program participants, let me know. You can feel free to mention it now, or you can send me an email once you have time to think about it. So not hearing anything, I think I'll move on, but just keep that in mind as something to, as just something to think about as we're approaching the April date. The other thing I wanted to say was that there is for those who are new to the committee or just new to county commissions in general. There's a new commissioner orientation next Monday, February 6th from 7 to 8:30. It's not required, but just something that the county board office offers for those who are new to advisory boards. And then the other thing is that the Arlington's fair housing plan, regional fair housing plan, was just released this past week. And there will be a presentation at the Tenant Landlord Commission meeting on March 8th, where the planning staff will be providing an overview of the plan. Includes the data and the issues that were derived from the data analysis, and then it'll walk through the community participation process and the both the regional and the local goals that are presented in the fair housing plan. So I know we've talked about it a little bit at different times, but just as a reminder, Arlington participated with 7 other local jurisdictions in both Virginia and Maryland and the District of Columbia to do a regional fair housing plan. And so it's been several years in the making. And so it's finally been released. So we're just kicking off the community participation process now. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Great. So I think we can move on to member reports. Does anyone have anything to share?
This is Margaret, and I was just gonna mention that the Housing Commission is having 2 meetings this month because one is being dedicated exclusively to missing middle. So for any of you who are particularly interested in missing middle, that will actually be a week from, it'll be the, oh goodness, hang on, it's Thursdays, and it will be the 16th. Our normal night will be the 9th, and doing our regular business, but the 16th will be virtual and will be dedicated exclusively to missing middle. So if anybody has that particular interest, please check that out on the website and attend.
Great. Thanks, Margaret. Any other reports? All right. Well, Laura, I think we can adjourn the meeting.
Let's go ahead and adjourn.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Our next meeting will be March 1st, and it will be a in-person meeting again. So I will be sending out information once it's available. Thanks for all of you for attending again tonight, though. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks,
Have
everybody.
a good one.
Thank you,
Thank you
Caitlin. Have a
all.
good night.